Hello, my name is Sherilyn, this is Linda. Welcome to Hobby Starter. So you might be thinking, well, what's this all about? Now, we are part of the Gemporia partnership, and within that, we've got some of the biggest crafting channels. It includes 3 different brands. So we've got Jewellery Maker, we've also got Sewing Street, and we've got Hobby Maker. And we love to really sort of introduce newbies, but also people with lots of experience into the world of craft. Now, if we have a little look at Jewellery Maker, then this is the only dedicated jewellery making channel that there is. And we really get to bring techniques that start from the likes of beading, but then we go to silversmithing, we come to casting. So it's a full array of the most incredible amount of techniques where there are phenomenal guests that you get to learn from all the time. We've also got Sewing Street, which is of course a channel that includes so much once again. You've got quilting that you get to see, dressmaking, crocheting, so it's jam-packed, some fabulous presenters on there, and once again a really amazing amount of guests that you get to see. And then there's Hobby Maker, which obviously is a channel that has a lot of different techniques. Primarily it is paper craft. We've got mixed media that we bring to that as well. There's digital crafting. Tangling, which you may have seen Sandra Rushton doing. So there's again an array of different techniques that you get to learn from crafting. Now, if you've never crafted before, or you might be new, or you might do one type of craft and thinking, I want to branch out to something else, maybe you're lacking in confidence, then that is what this Hobby Starter is all about. Because we are going to kind of be talking you through right from start to finish, all different techniques that you can learn from, and then giving you a bit of an introduction to our 3 crafting channels. So if you want to, you can go on to watch them live each day. Now, this particular show that we're doing is going to focus primarily on beading, and we're going to take you right back to basics. So if you've never done anything like this before, you will actually be able to learn how to do it. So maybe you're new to making jewellery and you're thinking, I'd like a go at that. Well, then Linda is going to show you exactly how to get started with it. So Linda, lovely to have you with us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I've been here working on Jewellery Maker for, well, since day one. And it's been a real journey, a growth spurt for me, not only loving my jewellery making, but also with the other hobbies that the channel covers, is being introduced into new mediums. And once you're a crafter, you're always a crafter. And when you've actually, let me say the word, nailed a hobby in all forms, then you can't help but look for the next thing. So it's very addictive, hobby making and hobby craft, but it's incredibly good for you. If I get right down to basics, it's incredibly good for your well-being and mental health and all sorts of things like that. I know that from a personal
Well, it gives you a chance
experience.
to switch off,
switch off and switch on to something that needs that bit of extra concentration.
And did you start with jewellery making? Was that the initial craft you did?
No, strangely enough, I started my journey through various hobbies started with paper craft.
Oh, did it?
Some probably 20 years ago. And then that introduced me, strangely enough, to crochet. That was the next thing I did. And then I turned to an elderly auntie of mine who was absolute whiz kid with embroidery, and that took me through ribbon embroidery and things like that. So, you know, it's endless. It's endless hobby making. But jewellery making has been the one I have completely and utterly stuck to throughout the years. It's always a go-to because it's a useful hobby to have in as much as, let's face it, we all wear jewellery. It's an accessory. It's a bit like makeup for ladies, you know, it's that extra bit of accessory to add to your presentation. And if you go on the high street into jewellery shops or into large department stores looking for jewellery, you have something in mind that you're looking for, i.e. to match a certain outfit. And invariably, that picture that you have in your mind, you can't find it out there.
So true.
But once you've learnt these few very basic techniques of jewellery making, and they're very simple, very simple indeed, then you can make exactly the piece of jewellery that you want and be very proud wearing it. And also people will say, oh, that's beautiful, where did you get that from? There's lots of education within jewellery making as well, because there's lots of different product that you can use in your jewellery making. When I say product, I mean beads, metals, wires, etc. And we can, you know, when I first started jewellery making when my daughter got married. She wanted something specific, and we couldn't find it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a little bit of research here and see if I can find a way of making that particular bracelet, necklace, earrings and tiara that she wanted, which is exactly why I sort of went into jewellery making. That gave me purpose, and then got completely and utterly hooked on it.
It is, it's addictive, and I think as well, whether you make something for yourself or whether you're gifting it as well, it's so personal, and it is that response that you get from people when you actually show them these pieces.
It is a way of enjoying a hobby, but creating something that, as you've just said, Charlene, is wearable, giftable, and it will cost you in the end far less money to produce your own jewellery. I mean, here at Jewellery Maker, as Sherilyn said at the beginning of the show, we'll lead you through the basic beading and the basic findings. I'll explain that term in a minute. And then you can go right up to gem setting with, you know, polished premium gemstones, diamonds, rubies, sapphires, things like that. We do all of that here.
You can basically take it as far as you want, can't you?
As far as you want to take it.
And the brilliant thing is as well is we've got a fantastic website, jewellerymaker.com, where there are so many tutorials, so many techniques on there. You know, if you're seeing something that Linda uses today during her demonstrations and you think, I want to recreate this, go and have a look on there, because you will be able to find kind of many similar bits and the tools that we're using on there to really start your jewellery making journey as well. So we're going to be learning obviously a bit about beading, and is everything very much sort of that beginner friendly?
It's completely back to page 1 of the book.
So anybody could do this?
Absolutely, anybody.
Oh, this is exciting, isn't it? So shall we have a little look at whatever you would like to demonstrate first?
Well, the very first demonstration, and I appreciate there's only one earring there, but I'm going to go through the demonstration showing you the other earring.
Okay.
Now, this particular earring, as you can see, contains a freshwater pearl, and you can see that this gold metal that goes through the pearl, which is called a head pin, and this is the head pin. Okay. It's a little bit of a length of wire with a little soldered bobble on the end, which is used as a stopper that you can see underneath the pearl. Then what I'm going to show you now is something called a simple loop. A simple loop is made using a pair of round nose pliers. Now, please don't get into your head from the very beginning, oh, it's got tools. Now, that's one of my things with any hobbies I've ever done is, oh, if it means I've got to get used to using tools, ooh. But no, these are for purpose and very easy. So these are the round nose pliers, and you can see they've got 2 pinchers, I suppose they're called, that are completely spherical, and they go from the tip end is graduated up from a tiny tip end right the way through to a much wider circle as it gets nearer the hand grip. And I'll explain that while I'm doing the demonstration on how to make that particular earring.
Okay.
The other thing that I'll be using to make that earring, besides the actual pearl, the head pin, is an earring finding, which is in this case, it's a shepherd hook. You can see that where that's come from. You can see it's a bit like a shepherd's crook. But it's called a shepherd's hook earring. And then it has let me just hold that with the plier.
Lovely.
The hands out of the way.
Oh, it
has obviously the hook that goes through the ear, and then here at the bottom it has a ring that you can open. again, I'll show you and talk to you about that in a moment.
Okay.
And that's what, all that you need are those 3 components to make,
wow,
times 2 to make a pair of earrings. Now if you imagine that is a freshwater pearl, this particular findings I'm using here are precious metal. They're gold plated on sterling silver.
Brilliant.
So those earrings in the shops would be, you know, a considered price. I mean, you know, you look at them in jewellers and you think, oh my goodness, you know, 3 figures.
Well, a lot of
pearls.
people don't have a chance to own pearls because of exactly that point, that they're expensive. So the fact that you're getting to make them yourself and it's going to be so affordable to be able to do that is just a win-win to me.
Yeah, it is a complete win-win because you've got everything about this particular hobby is enjoyable.
Yeah.
Everything, right from start to finish.
And we're going to see how to do it, aren't we?
We are going to see how to do it, and it's incredibly, incredibly easy.
Okay.
And these techniques I'll be showing you throughout this show are the very basic sort of dummy techniques that you will use within your journey, along your journey, I should say, in jewellery making, because you can get the most simplest, cleanest type of jewellery using these techniques, and then you grow it through design using those same techniques and make much more complex, more statement looking jewellery. So I can now equip you from very simple jewellery all the way through. You will be equipped with these techniques to create, you might see something in a magazine or something, and by the time you see that in the magazine, you will be able to break down how it's made in your mind and use that as your inspiration.
It's almost like the building blocks, isn't it? Once you've got the basics, you can kind of
very much so
keep on growing.
So what I've got here now, I've got my cultured pearl.
Okay.
I've got my head pin and I've got my earring finding. Now you might be thinking, what do you mean by finding? Well, that's the terminology for all the little bits of the metal. Some of which you will learn in future. You can make some of these findings yourself, but others, unless you are an absolute genius and have got sort of all the engineering that can go into making these particular findings, you can't, you have to purchase them. Now they're called findings apparently because centuries and centuries ago, when jewellery making, there's just a little
just in front, little findings board, kind of sums up what a few of them are, isn't it?
So that we can sort of pick them out as we use them. But apparently when jewellers started to create wearable jewellery that could be made very quickly, high demand jewellery, for whatever type of people, you know, royalty, well-to-do people, whatever, then they would use the precious metal wires and precious metal, literally precious metal, and create these findings. The reason why they're called findings is when these jewellers, say in the 15th, 16th century, were placing a gemstone into like a pendant form, so it would have to be popped into a flat piece of metal with a decorative edging. They would use metal, and they would be cutting the metal, melting the metal, etc. And a lot of that metal would just drop on the workshop floor. So overnight, they would gather all of these bits of metal up, and that is where the findings title comes from.
I never knew that.
They used to find them on the floor and then reuse them
that's
to
really
make the
interesting.
things far more a quicker make, if you see what I mean.
Makes sense.
And right for the job, right for purpose.
Brilliant.
So the 2 findings I'm using are the head pin and the shepherd's hook earring finding. There are other head pins. They're all based on the same theme, but you can get them with just different stopping points on the end, floral and all sorts, and the same with earring findings. As you progress through jewellery making, you'll find stud findings and hoops and all sorts of things. You know them, you've seen them, but now you'll learn what they're called. Right, let's begin the demo.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm taking my head pin and my cultured pearl, and I am popping literally the pearl onto the pin and taking it down to the little bobble at the end, which is my stopping point. Now I'm going to be forming now what we call a simple loop. A simple loop you can open. Okay, so I'll take my flat nose pliers. Now these pliers are used for creating angles, for bending, because you can grip with them. The round nose pliers I showed you previously, being round, they're the pliers that we use to form a ring, a circle. So take the flat nose pliers and grip the pearl, making sure that it's nice and tightly on that head pin.
Okay.
And then take the tip of your flat nose pliers and just do a little forward bend, only a little one, and then putting your index finger just on top of the pearl and at the base of the pin, never at the top, always at the base, and just create that through 90 degrees. If you did it from the top here, you won't get a nice 90-degree angle. You will get a curve, and that's exactly what we don't want.
Right.
So we need, let me just hold that like so. You need your gem, your pearl, your bead to drop at a right angle to the residue of the pin.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So now I need to form a loop on the top of the pearl. So that is too long. That residue of wire there is too long. So my go-to rule, and you can mark it if you wanted to on the residue of the wire with a permanent marker. You can mark your point. It's about 1 centimetre from the angle.
Okay.
So over the years I just got used to seeing that length and just going straight for it.
Yeah.
So now we've got that shorter length now. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and as I said previously, these are graduated. Now the rule I always go to with a simple loop, because we've got this centimetre of residue to work with, I always find that if you place your wire about 1 centimetre down the round nose pliers, okay, and then pinch together, making sure that there is nothing, you can't feel the rough edge of that wire there, the other side of the plier. Now, if you went to the very narrow end, you would get some residue that would not form that circle, so you get a little neck and then your simple loop on the top of that. But if you go centimetre to centimetre, so 1 centimetre cut, 1 centimetre down the round nose pliers, this is just something I've learnt over the years of doing these, and then cushioning the pearl on your index finger, the hand that you're holding the pearl with, and letting that wire rest on the tip. Now what you have to do is really get some purchase on these pliers, and then slightly push down, but as you're pushing down, you're bringing your pliers around and forming basically half a circle. So now we've got sort of a little question mark. And what you need to do now is pop the pliers back in where they fit. So in other words, again, about that centimetre down. Holding the pearl to the side, again cushioned on your finger. Then what you've got to do is ease, and you can do it in little motions, pushing that circle to complete, that half circle to complete the circle. Don't worry at this stage if it's a little bit wonky as opposed to the sort of gravity drop. Don't worry about that, because you just take your flat nose pliers, cover that simple loop, and then just encourage it.
Just shows how malleable it is, isn't it, with that precious metal?
I always think of a snowman's head, particularly when I'm using pearls, but no, I always say you need to put your snowman's head on so it connects with his spine.
I love that description.
Okay, and then you have two options now of attaching to your earring finding. The shepherd hook earring finding has a simple loop here, so you can use that to attach to the charm drop. So I'm just going to put now a little top tip is on, not all, but on 99% of shepherd hook earring findings, you will find the opening is on the inside. So if you look at the earring finding, And then if you look at the earring finding and imagine that that is the inside. The inside of the earring finding is where your curve is basically concave. Is that correct, concave? I think it is.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And then holding the earring part, in other words, this is the part that passes through the ear.
Yeah.
Holding that again, get some purchase on that. Putting your flat nose pliers at about 3 o'clock, okay? Resting again on the top of your index finger. Pushing down with your thumb on the, because don't forget this is wire and wire will bend.
Yeah.
And then just do a quarter turn towards you.
Okay.
Never ever open, we'll come to jump rings later in the show, and it's exactly the same technique. Always open like a door, open it towards you and close it with the opposite motion. Never pull it east or west ever, because you'll just fracture.
Okay.
And then take your charm drop, which is what I like to call anything with a loop on the top, and pop it into that open loop.
Yeah.
And then making sure that it's completely trapped within the loop, and then just closing the door. Then once you've closed that door, you can sort of see with the human eye that it looks closed. That looks closed to all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
But you know, even if it is a very slight distance out, that will start to sort of wear and tear as you use them, and you might lose the pearl.
Okay.
So I always balance the charm drop, put my flat nose pliers back on the simple loop that's on the earring finding, because that's the one that I've opened, and just press it down slightly, and that'll squeeze it into submission basically, and hopefully it will be closed. The reason why we use simple loops is because I just mentioned time and time again, that is a loop that can be opened to attach. If I hadn't opened the earring loop, then I could have, if that had been soldered on that loop, I could open the loop on the pearl.
Okay.
So I would have a way to attach to whatever. I mean, you think of charm bracelets and all sorts of things.
Yeah, of course.
You know? So that is the first technique.
But when you think, like,
it will take practice.
You've said as well, like, that's a simple loop. It looks not at all simple when you look at it. It looks so glamorous.
It absolutely.
That's what I love about it, and yet it was easy to do.
When you look at jewellery that's for purchase in the shops, you know, you see rows and rows of earrings. They have to be attached to whatever finding or whatever they're attached to, and it's the professional jewellery makers do it exactly the same way.
Yes.
So that's where you can break something down, and once you know these techniques, you can create your own.
Oh, honestly, thank you so much,
It's a
because
pleasure.
that has just completely simplified it all for us, hasn't it? So it is something now that you can decide to go with that technique. You can have a little go at home. As we say, if you do need to get your findings, you want to get pearls or anything similar, then of course you can pop onto our website. You can have a little look, of course, at our jewellery making channel to learn more as well. And you're going to be showing us even more, aren't you, in a minute? So
Yes.
even more techniques.
I'm going to grow that.
Okay, very exciting. All of that is coming up in a moment. So we're coming across to the next stage, and you're going to take this technique one step further.
Yes, so when you, as I said earlier in the show, when you learn a simple technique, you can then grow that and make more sort of higher end, let's say, or let's just say different. Some people like to wear just a single drop on the ear. Other people like to have long shoulder dusting earrings. So I'll just show you how to grow that simple loop technique into a dangle, a drop.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay. So as you can see on this earring here, I have got a turquoise stone, which I think is dyed halite.
Okay.
I have got an orange stone, which is an agate, and then topped again with the dyed highlight. I've also got the earring finding, which is the shepherd hook again, and then you can see several loops going from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to show you using a different pin in one moment. But first of all, I'm going to use a head pin that I've used in the previous demonstration and pop the blue gemstone onto this. Now you can see this has got a slightly different finishing stopper there. That's got a little flat nail top.
Yeah.
Okay, so they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and decoration. So I've popped on and let it drop down. You see where gravity comes in useful. You know then that that is definitely in the right place. Then again, holding the gemstone, taking your flat nose pliers to the on the tip to the very, very top of that gem, and just slightly compromising the wire by doing a little bend. Pop your index finger back on and push it down through your 90 degrees. So again, we've got, it was standing up straight, and now we've gone through 90 degrees, and we have the beginning part of creating our loop. Okay. So again, hold on to the gemstone, take your cutters. Now these are wire cutters. These, as it says on the tin, are used for cutting most wires. Never, at some point soon, you'll be getting into something called memory wire. Please, please do not use your thread cutters or your generic wire cutters for memory wire, because memory wire is steel and there are specific cutters for them. Okay, so would it will blunt the tool, definitely. So again, by eye, I'm going to cut my wire at about 1 centimetre. Do be careful, but do be aware when you're cutting wire that it will spring off. So I tend to hold it between my middle and ring finger. Okay. So that it doesn't, in this case, knock a cameraman's eye out. Keep balancing. Go back to my round nose pliers, about that magic centimetre down the plier, again, holding the gemstone and using the pads of my finger as a cushion. Push down and raise up until your elbow that's holding the hand that has the pliers in is really uncomfortable. That's the time to take them out. So that's a little question mark stage. Pop the plier back where it fits, and then ease down in little downward motions, ease down to the top of the gem. So you've got like a little, it's free, it's got movement, but it's completely and utterly safe within that loop. Going back to my flat nose pliers, I'm going to just press that together. That also helps it not to catch on anything. Okay. Which is something that can happen, obviously, with a loop that can be open. Now I'm going to swap pins now and get. These are the sort of pins that you can make yourself at some point, but in the initial stages of making jewellery, just buy them. Yeah. Because they're so reasonable as well, price-wise. Exactly. So you can see on the end of this pin, this is an eye pin. It's got this little eye. This is just a simple loop on the end of a length of antique bronze wire. Okay. But that allows me now to cut a stage whereby I haven't got to make that loop, because I've bought an eye pin, it's got the eye there, and the same thing is you open it in exactly the same way as we did previously through a quarter turn, take your little charm drop, pop it on, and then close it down back through the quarter turn and pinch. Obviously, it's a good idea to look and see. I can see a tiny little gap, so I'll take my pliers each side and just encourage it without compromising that wire. Okay. Just encourage it closed. It's just a matter then of safety for your gems. So now we've got our little charm drop gem, which has now been threaded onto an eye pin. So now I've got to make that eye pin have exactly the same loop on the other end to attach to the next level. So I'm putting my, again, exactly the same as if there was a gemstone on the end, just where the loop meets at 12 o'clock on the clock face, put your flat nose pliers, and then again compromise the wire and bend it down again through the 90 degrees. I'm just going to make sure that that's completely hasn't been compromised by that bend, and then this is how these techniques grow and create more complex jewellery.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
again, about 1 centimetre of residue, 1 centimetre down my round nose plier, making sure that there's nothing sticking out the other end, because that won't return into the loop. And again, push down and around till your elbow gets uncomfortable. Pop back where it fits, and then ease that back to the top of the loop that pre-existed.
Okay.
Don't worry that they're not on the same face, these circles. That circle is sort of on the side, and this one is sort of a front-facing circle. Don't worry about that at this stage, but you most definitely will need a loop to face a certain direction as you go through your jewellery making. But don't forget, this is wire.
Okay.
You can just grab it with your pliers and then just stabilise the base of it, and then just twist your wire around so that you've got them all facing in the same direction.
So it will just move with you anyway, quite easily.
But at this moment, it doesn't matter. It might sort of annoy you that they're not all facing the same direction, in which case, please do make them change.
Yeah.
As I say, wire, you're the boss of the wire's not the boss of you. So
Exactly.
Right, so now we have our first charm drop with our simple loop above it, and then we have our loop from our eye pin with another simple loop on that same eye pin.
Okay.
Now we're going on to the next stage of the ladder, as it were, using a different gemstone, because I just think blue, this sort of turquoisey blue and orange goes so well together.
It does,
This
it
is
looks
a
lovely,
gorgeous
doesn't it?
agate. So I'm taking another eye pin, because the simple loop's already there for me, and then pop my agate on again until it stops, holding the gem, and again with the flat nose pliers right to the top of the gemstone, and with the very tip of the plier, and compromise that wire somewhat by just giving it a little bit of a push down, finishing off that angle by putting your index finger on top and pushing it through the full 90 degrees.
Okay.
Then using your wire cutters, that magic centimetre chop off. Again, if you can measure the centimetre by using a rule and just putting a little blob on the eye pin to sort of lead you to that centimetre length. But the more you do, the more you will just see it naturally, and you won't need to do that. The same thing applies on the round nose pliers. To create the simple loop, you can put a little mark on the plier itself, so you know where to place
Yeah, it's a good idea.
the residue. So again, about 1 centimetre down. The way of knowing you've got enough purchase on it is by removing your stabilising hand from the gem and making sure you could shake hands basically like so.
Yeah.
And it's not falling out of those pliers.
It's them little tips, isn't it, that really help?
Yeah, it is. Those are the frustrating things that happen. You think, how do I solve that?
Yeah.
So again, I've got my centimetre of wire in my round nose pliers. There's nothing peeking out this end. I'm resting very much so on the cushion of my index finger, pressing down but at the same time raising and bringing it up. Once your elbow has had enough and it can't go any further, remove the plier, pop it back in, pop the base plier back in to where it fits, and then looking on a sideways angle down onto the cushion of your finger, and then just encourage it back in little movements using the plier. Pliers are an extension of your hands, but they make your hands a lot stronger if you're using. You couldn't do that with such a short length of wire. You could not do that with your hands without the plier. So again, going back to flat nose, just give that a little bit of a press down to make sure that that's meeting in both directions. Now I'm going to go back to my first charm drop. And that simple loop that I made on top of the eye pin, I'm going to pinch that bottom loop of the eye pin, that loop that was already there, just pinch that between finger and thumb.
Okay.
Keep it really tight. Again, using the tip of my flat nose pliers, open that loop about a quarter turn, take my agate charm drop, pop on, and pop that back, return that to make a full circle, and again putting some pressure on the closure, and then I'll just pop that onto my round nose pliers. You can see now you could leave it at that and attach to the earring finding if you wanted to, but by using the same method again, which I'll quickly go through on the next bluestone, we've got like a gemstone sandwich.
Great. And does it matter sort of which gemstones you use or what size of gemstone?
No, not at all.
No.
That is the absolute beauty of making your own jewellery. You can use what type of stone, whether it's size, colour, a particular gemstone that you really love, because you can get all of the top gemstones in bead.
Yes,
In bead form as well.
Well, like how some people love using their birthstones, for example, things like that.
I mean, it is a joy. I've just finished making for my aunt. I've just finished making. She's always loved drop earrings, and I've just finished making her a pair of earrings that contain a gemstone of all her nephews and nieces.
Oh, how lovely!
There's 7 of them, so they are quite long.
Yeah.
I try to keep my loops tiny to stop it from being too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can make these emotional pieces as well. You can make, but just think your jewellery might become, you know, a hereditary piece of jewellery, particularly when you're using gems, you know, real kosher gems and pearls and ambers and things like that.
Yeah.
But also you can, anything that you find attractive, you can, I mean, there's some beautiful faceted glass beads out there. So whatever literally is you fall in love with, just use.
Definitely. And have a little browse on our website, because if you go to jewellerymaker.com, you can see kind of our catalogue of pieces that you can actually get from there. So if you're looking at that and you were thinking, oh, I really do want some agate or some howlite, or you want to branch out to other things, have a little look on there, because we've got so much actually that you can kind of get depending on what you want. Okay, so we're going to look at the third stone being popped on.
Well, the third stone I'll pop on a lot quicker.
Okay,
because
yeah,
you can
we've seen the
rewind,
technique, yeah.
So I've popped on my blue stone, right to the very end, on an eye pin again, okay, and pop my flat nose pliers, just do that little bit of a turn in the wire. That just compromises the wire and it softens it somewhat there for you to finish off that nice right angle on top of the gem. Cut it off at, again, that magic centimetre. Keep all the little bits of wire, the little bits of, I mean, I've got some wire that I've just cut off. You can see from here, this is another little tip. I've got that length of wire, which is residue. So I could make an eye pin from that.
Yeah, of course you could.
By just creating a 90-degree angle about 1 centimetre down and returning it. And I've got a homemade eye pin.
Yeah, it's worth saving everything, and then you've got it in your stash ready to use.
Absolutely, absolutely, definitely. So I'm going about 1 centimetre down the plier again and push down, up and in and down. So we've got a nice loop again. So this time I will open the loop I have just closed. There you are. And again a quarter turn.
Yeah.
Take the 2 gemstone charm drop I've made, pop that on and close and pinch. And if it's a little bit sort of, if you find it's a little bit of a dog leg, say that's sort of stuck out a little bit there, then just go back to the loops and refashion them with flat nose and round nose pliers to make them more...
Because like you said, the metal's so malleable that you can kind of move that to exactly how you want it.
It's very malleable, and it is wire, and you know, a little bit of pressure on the wire and you can make it whatever you want it.
Yeah,
and then I'm going to take a shepherd hook earring finding. I don't be able, sometimes they're a little bit closed like so.
Yes.
Again, they're wire, so just open it up to give yourself a little bit more space.
Okay.
Take my flat nose pliers and stabilising the earring finding on my finger, open, quarter turn, pop on and close. Press down, and then you can then take the earring finding and just press back.
Great.
Now another little top tip is, if the earring findings, shepherd hook earring findings, are similar to these, or the same as these, and you think, well, that's going to go straight through the ear, which is exactly what it does. But you can always then, just as an extra safety precaution, is pop the end sideways into the plier, your flat nose plier, hold it tightly and give it a bit of a kick.
Ah, yes.
And then you've got that there that should prevent it from being pulled out.
Which you see a lot kind of when you go, like we said, to our stores and everything.
Especially if there are babies around.
Yeah. And I think what's so good about this, obviously we are going right to the basics, so you're seeing that technique from start to finish. But what you'll be amazed about is when you actually have a go at this at home, the speed that you can actually create things like this. You pick it up really quickly, don't you?
Definitely. You'll be in sort of first gear inside 60 seconds. Definitely. Sorry, top gear inside 60 seconds. You'll probably be in... you probably have done 3 miles in first gear when you it doesn't take long. That's the beauty. It's repetitive, but that's what practice is.
Yes, exactly.
It's repetition.
And as you can see there, you can kind of make these into any length that you want to as well, which is where you can sort of use your own inspiration.
Any type of bead. Anything at all, any shape. You referred earlier to shapes and things. Yes, most definitely any shape. These are chips and nuggets, by the way.
Yeah.
Which are sort of offcuts of gems when they're cut. You can use rounds, cubes, wheels, all sorts. As long as there's a hole in that gemstone, a drill hole, you can use them to make anything.
Yeah, fantastic. And you're actually going to take us even a step further now, aren't you?
A different loop.
So we're gonna learn about a different loop and see what you can do with that. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a different type of loop.
A different type of loop. The first one I did was a loop that you can open called a simple or a plain loop.
Okay.
This terminology you sort of get used to because if you're following instructions on various patterns or whatever for creating your jewellery, then they will refer, it's like knitting and crocheting, they refer to a certain stitch or a certain action. So that was the simple. This one is now called a wrapped loop, and you'll see why when I go through it. But a wrapped loop is a loop that cannot be opened. So that has to be threaded on to something that either can be opened or threaded onto an open jump ring. Okay. Yeah. So, but it's a much more, let's say, safer loop because even if it's pulled at it won't open.
Right.
So again, same thing, using a head pin with a stopper, and I've got another cultured pearl here. Yeah. Pop it onto the head pin until it has met the little bobble on the end. Now I'm going to take my round nose pliers straight away this time, and at the very tip of the round nose pliers, because obviously that is the smallest loop that I can fashion, is just pop that and sandwich the head pin in between the 2 pliers about 1 or 2 mils in. Okay. Right. So now what I'm going to do is I've got a strong hold on that head pin there. Again, sort of do a bit of an action to make sure that you have got it completely tight. And then using your index finger, push down through your 90-degree angle again, but push it down right on top of the plier. So your finger is on top of the plier and you're pushing down through 90 degrees there. Now when I release my plier, you will see that there is a little neck there that wasn't there on the simple loop. There's a little bit of a neck coming out. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers again, stabilising the residue and popping them back about that 1, 2, 3 mil down. And then again with a lot of strength, a lot of purchase on the handles of the plier, putting my index finger underneath the head pin and then ease it towards me, keeping my finger there so that I can manipulate it somewhat and push down again, but now through 180 degrees. So we've come completely through 180 degrees. Remove your pliers. Now this is what I call my question mark stage. It's a big question mark, this one. Now pop the plier back again where it fits and close the pliers down. The residue, again using your index finger as a cushion, push down towards the pearl, and then moving your pliers around somewhat, in my case because I'm right-handed, moving it somewhat to the left, be vice versa if you're left-handed, and then keeping my plier sandwiched in that question mark part circle, and then I've just got to take, you can use your flat nose pliers at first if you want to, if you can't get a purchase on this residue, and then it has to push that residue around, turning the component sideways, push it round using that little neck to wind around. Okay, so again I'm just going to straighten that loop a little bit, pop my pliers back in and kick that more into a nice snowman's head again. Take my cutters, and then with the very tip of the cutters you need to have really are going to be cutters like these. This is a company called Zuron. They make fantastic pliers. Just look on the website. And the very tip is as sharp as it is further down. Okay, yeah. So you can get into small spaces with that tip. So there's the residue there that I didn't twist round. And obviously there can be making sure that you don't cut your loop. Now if you still see a little tiny bit of wire that you haven't got snipped off, take your flat nose pliers either side and get the end of that wire and just push it in, so that it's not sticking out anyway. So when you put your finger around, it's not viewable and it's not feelable. And then again, now because that is a wrapped loop and I cannot open it, I will take my earring finding, whichever earring finding I'm using, and again opening like a door, pop on the charm, and then closure, little pinch, and there's your wrapped loop. Oh wow. Pearl earring. And that came together so quickly as well. With a pearl earring. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, some years ago we had a little on-screen competition. There were about 3 of us designers with simple loops and wrap loops and a pair of earring as the project, and we sort of had a competition who would make that pair of earrings that quickly with the same component. Having a race. And I can't remember who it was, but I think it was down to something like 18 seconds. Really? To make a pair of earrings. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Gosh, that is phenomenal. Should we learn some more? Yes, you'd like to? Well, have a look at what we're going to do next. Okay, so you're going to see something completely different here, and we're going to talk through how to create this. Yeah, completely different, but using the same techniques, because I can't tell you enough times that same techniques create far different pieces of jewellery. So this particular one is what's really on trend and has been now for a while, is the good old hoop earring with a charm drop. So if you refer back to the previous demonstration of the wrapped loop, I'll just take that off there. I have fashioned a wrapped loop onto the pearl using a silver head pin. Okay. So I popped the pearl onto the head pin. I've created my wrapped loop there at the top and made sure that that's sitting nice on top of the snowman's body. Then I have this lovely sterling silver hoop earring finding. As you can see, there's a simple loop it's a piece of wire, silver wire, with a simple loop on the one side, and then on the other side it's just being kicked back into a little upright. Okay. So that goes together like so. So it goes into your ear, and then that's how you fasten it. So all I'm going to do is reverse the action, push down and take that out. My wrapped loop I can't open. Pop it on, push down, and back onto that. Wow. Gorgeous. And to get that perfect circular shape, would you sort of put that around anything, or would you just mould that yourself? I would, if I had, this is a purchasable, if there is such a word, earring finding. So you can get it already done like that. On the website. Yeah. But if, also on the website, you will find sterling silver wire, and wire comes in various gauges. This would be around a 0.6 gauge wire.
Lovely.
And as you have just cleverly said, yes, you just fashion it around a mandrel. You may have a ring mandrel, which obviously makes rings in all various sizes, and or you can use anything. You know, it could be a marker.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
As long as it's the size you want, then you can just fashion it around that that particular thing.
Yeah.
Do a simple loop on the one side,
Brilliant.
and then with your flat nose pliers, do that little kick up, push down, because wire, particularly sterling silver wire, is incredibly malleable. I mean, when you first start your jewellery making, I do advocate to use base metal findings.
Yeah.
Because they don't cost as much, obviously, and that's where you can learn and relearn your techniques.
Definitely.
And then move on to precious
metals.
925 silvers, or
Yeah.
silvers gold plated, platinum plated, rose gold plated, whatever. It's there as and when you want it, but it's just practice makes perfect. So just start on things a little bit more economical.
Fantastic. So we've seen so many different ways to make types of earrings and types of loops. I think we can have a look at one more demonstration before, of course, we let you know a bit more how to learn more from our channels. Okay, so what are we looking at now?
Well, here is what we call a chandelier earring. You can see why,
Beautiful,
can't you? Because
yeah.
it looks a bit like a chandelier with the various drops on it. Now, those earring findings, the chandelier forms, you can purchase on our website.
Okay.
You can make your own, but that's another story. But just show you, because on earrings like this, I would be happier with a wrapped loop rather than a simple stroke plain loop.
Okay.
Okay, because you get a little bit more weight attached, and they do sort of drop and hang and can be easily caught. So to fashion that, we have our chandelier earring form here. Now these come in lots and lots and lots of shapes and sizes, etc., and variations of pattern. But you can see here the loops you can't open them, they're solid loops. So we have to find a way of putting a wrapped loop onto there. Now you could, in another show, I'll show you how to use joining things together with flint rings, and you could use that method.
Yeah.
But there's a more of an economical way of using them as well. So we have our chandelier earring finding. I've put a little gemstone onto a silver head pin. Now going back to the wrapped loop demonstration, popping my pliers a couple of mil down, right on top of the gemstone, and pinching it nice and tightly, pushing forward through 90 degrees, holding the stone and supporting the head pin, open the plier and just flip round and close, and then using your cushion of your finger to just push back, making sure that it's right on the plier, your finger is right on the plier, and pushing back, never ever from the end of the head pin, always where it's inside the plier. Give that a little bit of a press down, because that's forming your circle. Take the plier out and you've got that halfway question mark stage. Now, what I'm going to do now is take the chandelier earring and I'm going to pop my head pin through that closed circle, and then let the chandelier dangle. Gravity does that for you. Just let it dangle in that loop, and then just stabilize it a bit. You'll find that all of these sort of actions with your hand will come naturally. Pop my plier just into the little dent of that halfway stage wrapped loop, and then again, because it's wire, I can go behind that gemstone, finding that little neck I fashioned on that wrapped loop beginning, and twisting it round. So now we've got a wrap loop, which won't open, onto another loop, which also won't open. So that is really, really safe. Going back to the pliers and snipping off that little residue. So you just continue through all loops, and then you can see at the top of this earring finding, the chandelier earring finding, we have another solid loop at the top. Okay, that won't open, so we go back to our earring finding of choice, again as the shepherd hook. Open as previously demoed through a quarter turn. Pop the chandelier onto that open simple loop and then reclose.
Wow, super easy. Yeah.
And it's very, very, I mean, I can promise you, honestly, that if you find any of these techniques slightly tricky at the beginning, just don't lose faith, practice, practice, practice. And within, say, a week of practice, you'll wonder why you ever got yourself in a bit of a bother.
Yeah, and we have a great community. We have a lovely kind of Facebook community and things like that. So get in touch on there, you know, get involved, and any questions that you have, you can always kind of put out to our experts or of course to other like-minded people. Now, if you've enjoyed that and you would like to know more, then please do head over and watch our main channel, which is live every single day from 8 a.m. in the morning till 1 p.m. It's on Sky 674. It's also on Freeview 72 as well, and you'll be able to learn loads from there. Now also you can watch live on the website, so it's really what works best for you. If you're on the go, you can watch on the website, and you can see the website just here. It's really easy to get around, and of course you can be watching the live shows. You might want to go to our TV guide. That will show you what's coming up, as you can see there, but also you get the chance to watch back previous shows as well. And you can see all the product that of course has been involved in any of the makes on the show, so you can buy the bits that you want. Now, we've also got the hub that you can see just here. And on that page you get lots of inspiration, you get some great tutorials as well, there's lots of help, and it's something that you can really sort of get involved with in terms of the hub that you're seeing there. Now, if you are looking for gemstones, or you're looking for findings, or any of the tools that obviously Linda's used in the shows today, you can find all of the product here, right there on a Jewellery Maker's website. Now, if you do decide as well to head over to our website that you've just seen, you can actually get 10% off your first order. So it's a great way to kind of start jewellery making and to get shopping. You know, test us out, see what you want to do and sort of see the quality of our products. Now, if you want to become part of our community as well, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, we do have Facebook pages, we have Instagram as well, and this gives you loads of updates, so you know about what's coming up. You also get inspiration from these, and you know, you get to know like-minded people, and you get to share all of your ideas and inspirations, and ask them questions. You know, if you're new to this, it's a really, really lovely way to learn more and to be inspired in terms of what you want to do next. Now, if you are thinking, actually, I'm not sure if I'm ready for the tips, the techniques of the main channel, which do kind of get more experience depending on who's on, then stay tuned, because we have got loads more that is coming up within this series of Hobby Starter. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure, it's been a joy. And I can just add one more thing.
Yeah, please do.
Is this hobby of jewellery making, particularly from Gemporia Company, not only teaches you how to make jewellery, but it also gives you fantastic education and introduction into gemology. Now, that's what I have learned working here, and I am addicted to gemology. It's so interesting. It's just a great place to be.
It is, it absolutely is. And we can't wait to see your journey. Please do, if you make anything, send in your pictures as well, because we'd love to see them. And I can't wait for your jewellery making journey to start. Thanks for joining us.